Okay, so before we move to part 2 of this course, allow me to present you my book. This is the book, My Narcissist and I, How to Find Happiness. It's available on Amazon as an ebook and also as a print on demand. And in this book, you will learn a lot about narcissists, about different types of narcissistic relationships. You will also learn a lot about the origins of narcissism. And of course, if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, then you're probably interested in whether you can make a narcissistic relationship work or not. Yes, you can, and you can find some tips how to do that in the book. Now we're really moving on to part 2 of our course. This is where we left off. Part 2, communication. We will be talking, like I said, about the process of communication, about successful communication, about interference in communication, then about narcissistic communication styles, partners, communication styles, communication with narcissists in general, the purpose of communication, and the importance of empathy. Communication. Communication, that is something that we do completely spontaneously, more or less, every single day in different circumstances with different people. Yet there are certain rules that pertain to the process of communication. The basic elements of communication are the sender, the message, the communication channel, and the receiver. To be a bit more specific, the process of communication is composed of the following elements. First, we have the sender, that is person A. And this person A has an intention. This person A has certain thoughts or emotions that she would like to express. And all of these intentions, thoughts, and emotions have to be encoded into a message. Then we have to send this message, and the message is sent via the channel. The communication channel can be a phone call, a text message, a personal live communication face-to-face. It can be a fax, if somebody is still sending fax. It can be an email. It can be a handwritten letter. Different types of communication channels exist. Once the message is passed through the channel, it is received by person B, by the receiver. That's our narcissist in our case. And this person B has to decode the message that we have sent. Then they have to process this message, reflect about it, and give us feedback, preferably. If we want successful to be communication, successful, then we expect some kind of feedback. So the person B has to encode the message again, send it or transmit it, transfer it via the channel, and the message is then again received by person A, meaning by us or by the partner of the narcissist. So these are the stages in the process of communication. It's important to be mindful of them because, as we will see later on, interferences or disturbances can arise in any of these phases. And since there are so many different phases in communication, and since problems can arise in all of them, then it's kind of difficult to have a successful communication, isn't it? Yet we communicate successfully most of the time anyhow. Okay, so if we go now to the process, the 3V rule, we have verbal, we have vocal, and we have visual communication. If I asked you, which is the most important part of communication, you would probably say, well, verbal, of course, we use words when we communicate. Well, yes, words are important. Spoken or written words are definitely important. It's much easier to communicate with words than with any other means. But verbal communication is actually not the most important part of communication. I don't know if you remember how decades ago body language suddenly became a much talked about topic. Everybody was talking about body language and what body language means. And we talked decades ago already that body language, so the visual in our case, has a lot of weight in communication. In fact, body language or visual communication is even more important than the verbal one. And since we are talking about verbal communication, we cannot forget about vocal communication. So if you're confused, what's verbal, what's vocal? Well, verbal, it's words. Vocal is the intonation, it's the pace, it's the pitch, it's the loudness of our communication. And Albert Mehrabian is the one who came up with the rule 7, 38, and 55%. 7% of communication is represented by verbal communication. So the words you employ in communication only represent 7%. 38% is represented by vocal communication. So the tone of voice, the pace of talking, and 55% goes to visual communication, body language. You have to keep all of that in mind because, like we talked about before, narcissists can be very empathic, meaning they can attune to what you are feeling and experiencing very well. So if your verbal and vocal and even visual communication are not aligned, if your verbal and visual communication are incongruent, then the narcissist will know you are faking it. And the narcissist will read you very well because he's attuned to you. Even if you are expressing verbally that you hate him and you will be leaving him this very instance if he doesn't do X, Y, Z, the narcissist will only look at your body language and know that you don't mean it. So be very careful of your visual communication. So your hand gestures, the body position, how your head is tilted, if you are fidgety, if you're doing anything with your legs or your arms or anything. Breathing can, of course, betray you as well. Why am I talking about this? Because words are important, but they are not the most important. It is true that in communication with narcissists, you have to carefully select words that are clear, that do not leave much room for interpretation, because even if you say something in a very kind manner and without any malicious intent, the narcissist can interpret that in his completely own way and distort your message. Successful communication depends, of course, on communication skills of both parties or all interlocutors, depending on how many people are involved in a communication. Communication can be a bridge, or it can be a source of eternal arguments and misunderstandings. And with narcissists, we often have arguments. There is a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of misinterpretations. There are two rules, the 5 C's and the 7 C's. What does that mean? It means that communication has to be, like it says on the slide, clear, cohesive, complete, concise, and concrete. Or if we employ the 7 C's, it has to be clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, complete, and courteous. So you have to be polite. Now, what does it mean that communication has to be clear? When you are expressing your thoughts or your desires, you have to express them in a very clear, unambiguous way. If you wish your narcissist would take you out to dinner for your birthday, then say it like that. Darling, I wish you would take me out for dinner on my birthday, which is next week, by the way, because they probably forgot. Don't say, well, you know, it's my birthday next week. Oh, you know, we haven't been out in a really long time. That doesn't mean anything. You're just expressing your current thoughts. You're not expressing your desire. Yet you expect your narcissist to pick up on your underlying wish and take you out for dinner on your birthday next week. So be clear what it is that you want. If you want to go out for dinner with your partner, then say, it's my birthday next week. It would be really great if you took me out for dinner. Communication has to be concise and cohesive. So clear, concise, keep it short. Men in particular don't like long messages, long monologues, because they get distracted pretty quickly. You can send several messages, but these messages should not contain more than an X amount of words. I don't have that specific number of words in mind, but a couple of sentences should suffice for a single message. Don't write novels, because if you write novels in text messages or in emails, or if you have a long monologue in one-on-one communication, your narcissist will probably be listening to you for the first 30 seconds, or will read the first paragraph, or even not that. And then he will just wander somewhere else. So be clear, be cohesive and concise. Cohesive also means that you should stick to one thought. Don't be all over the place. Don't start talking about subject A and then jump to subject B, to subject D, then return to A, then introduce C. Be cohesive. Communication also has to be complete. If there is something that you need to say it fully, completely. Don't leave things out. Don't leave things unsaid. Tell the whole story. You have to be coherent. So if you start talking about something, then it has to be logical, it has to be coherent, it has to make sense, so that your narcissist does not go, what the hell is she talking about? This is not making any sense. You have to make sense. Be concrete, be correct, state facts, don't misrepresent things, don't fabricate things, be correct. And courteous. I know that in the heat of an argument, it's really difficult to stay polite and courteous and all that, but if you are communicating nicely, in a friendly manner, if you're not attacking your interlocutor or putting all the blame on him, communication will be much more successful, especially with narcissists who are terribly susceptible to any criticism. Interferences in communication. So interferences can arise due to the lack of understanding. If I'm speaking French and my partner is speaking Chinese, then we are simply we're not understanding each other. We do not understand what the other is saying. So language can be a problem. Interferences can also be due to misunderstanding. You know, if I don't give the appropriate context for my message, then the same message can have a completely different meaning in the context that my narcissist is thinking of. So misunderstandings are frequent, perhaps even more frequent in communication with narcissists. Interferences can also happen at the level of the communication channel. I always say that it's best to talk to narcissists face to face. A lot of misunderstandings, misinterpretations arise in written communication. If you wish to talk about important subjects, don't write about them in text messages or in emails. It's always better to have a face-to-face communication. Now, just one word of advice, perhaps. Sometimes it's also good to send a message in a written form to a narcissist, because narcissists frequently forget that we have told them something, or that we wanted them to do something, or even that they promised they would do something. So sometimes it's okay to have written communication, but if you are discussing important issues, intimate topics, then do it face-to-face, one-on-one. Interferences can happen on the side of the sender. So we can formulate our message poorly. You know, it's like when a sentence sounded so great in our heads, and when it came out of our mouth, it was a complete disaster. Messages have to be clear, they have to be unambiguous, and they have to make sense. Now, messages can also be poorly or badly encoded. If I express my wish clumsily, or if I'm not clear in what I'm saying, then this message is poorly encoded. Not enough empathy towards the recipient. This does not mean that you have to be very empathic all the time when you are talking to your narcissist. It means more that when you are formulating a message, the message has to be formulated or encoded in a way that will be understood by the recipient. Like I said before, narcissists are their majesty the baby. And sometimes in our communication with them, we really have to treat them as if they were 3 years old. So our communication has to be adapted to that. But empathy also means that you take into account what is currently happening to your narcissist. For example, if your narcissist has just had surgery and is in hospital, in ICU, and you've decided that you want to get a divorce, then the conversation should ideally not take place when your narcissist is lying in the ICU. You have to be considerate towards your narcissist and take heed of the fact that he's currently incapable of having a proper adult conversation with you, especially about your desire to have a divorce. Now, on the side of the receiver, disinterest or lack of interest. Sometimes our narcissists are simply not interested in what we have to say. Not because they wouldn't be interested in us or in what is happening in our lives, but because they are not interested in the topic. If you have girly issues to discuss, female topics, or if you want to delve more deeply into some intimate subjects, then it's perhaps better to talk about them with your girlfriends. Narcissists can talk about intimate, girly issues sometimes, but not very often, and they have to be open to it. If you will pester him about your own problems with, I don't know, shoes or household or your mother, your narcissist might not be interested in it. Inattentive listening is also a problem that arises frequently because a person is not interested or is distracted or is just tired. Misinterpretation because the receiver, i.e. our narcissist, is receiving your message, but is decoding it from his own point of view, taking into account his previous experiences and his cultural, religious, whatever else you wish, background. The message can also be too long. Like I said before, if you're sending messages that are too long, your narcissist will simply ignore anything that comes after sentence number 3. Now, your interlocutor can also be distracted because, I don't know, your narcissist is tired or is having other problems and is not really willing to have a conversation at a specific moment you want to have a conversation. The impact or the influence of the sender. Usually we are under the influence of the narcissist, but sometimes they can be under the influence of us as well. In any case, this influence of the sender can have an impact, because if you are terrified of what your narcissist will tell you, or if you're afraid of being criticized, then you sort of freeze, and often half of the message just passes you by. You don't even listen to it. And of course, attributing a different meaning than was intended, that happens a lot, especially with narcissists, especially when we are trying to be helpful. Our help is often perceived as criticism. And on the side of the channel, there can be interferences as well. For example, if the phone is disconnected, that's an interference. The problem is that nowadays, when no one can slam down the receiver, you're not really sure whether the line was disconnected or you were just cut off by the narcissist. The number of intermediaries can also be problematic. So if you have something to discuss with your narcissist, discuss the issue face-to-face, just you two, without any additional people being involved in communication. Because as soon as the number of intermediaries increases, the possibility of message distortion or delusion increases as well. And disconnection. If we are talking on the phone and the line is disconnected, then that's an interference as well. Imagine how you feel if you are in the middle of a very heated argument and you're just about to present your side of the story and the line gets disconnected. It's pretty frustrating. Now, narcissists' communication style. These are the strategies that narcissists frequently employ in their communication with us. Some of them are very annoying to me. All of them are frustrating, and all of them lead to unsuccessful communication. Now, these styles are taken from Paula Hall's book. So which are the strategies narcissists use in communication? Advising. Our narcissists, because they're so smart and wonderful and know everything about everything, like to advise. And instead of listening to what we are telling them, instead of showing empathy, narcissists go straight to offering advice. They go straight to finding a solution for us, even though we had not asked for them to find a solution. Why do they do that? Well, because they don't want to be bothered with whatever is troubling us. They just want to go on with their lives as quickly as possible. Belittling, when they're acting in a very patronizing and condescending way. It's painful, it's hurtful, it's frustrating, and it often elicits a lot of anger in all of us who are talking to narcissists. This belittling can happen often with body language. well, if we are in a relationship with a toxic narcissist, then words that are denigrating or belittling will be used as well. But frequently, this belittling is expressed in body language. Narcissists will find subtle ways of saying, well, I think you're being stupid. They will be rolling their eyes. They will be tutting. They will be looking smug. They will be condescending. They will be shaking their head. They will be quietly contemplating, and they will be showing us zero empathy. And sometimes, yes, they will verbally attack us, they will belittle us, they will shame us, they will criticize us. And they usually do that when they don't know what to do or what to say, when they are simply overwhelmed with our problem and can find no solution. That's why they feel bad as well. And then they are projecting this negative self-image for not being competent enough to find a solution onto us. Changing the subject is something that irritates me immensely. And narcissists love to do that whenever we want to talk about something they don't want to talk about. Has it ever happened to you that your narcissist promised you that you will talk about this the next time or very soon, or just not today, maybe tomorrow? Yeah, that's what they do. They change the subject. And because they are expert manipulators, they of course manage to do that every time. Usually they just cut you off mid-sentence. They change the subject. And since they are so nimble and skillful in communication, they sometimes change the subject without you even noticing it for a little while. Competing is also something they do, and it's annoying as well, because usually we don't enter into communication with our narcissists because we want to compete with them or show them that we are better than them. They, on the other hand, often do that. And when they are competing with us, they change the focus of the conversation. So we are no longer talking about the subject at hand. We start talking about who is better of the two of us. They usually start comparing themselves to us. Or, for example, they suddenly start sharing their own similar experiencing and saying, well, you know, my situation is much worse. My problem is significantly bigger than yours. That kind of competing. I don't know. That's also a sentence that I've heard from narcissists so often that it really frustrates me, especially when you ask a specific question that requires a yes or no answer, and they say, I don't know. You know, they are pleading ignorance. That's one of the conversation blockers that teenagers usually use. And our narcissists love to employ this tactic as well. Because saying, I don't know, in the case of our narcissist, really means I don't give a damn about what you think or what you want. Just leave me alone with your boring conversation topics. Interrupting, similar to changing the subject. Interrupting is also a very irritating habit, because instead of listening to you, instead of giving you the time that you need to express your thoughts and feelings, narcissists get impatient. They just want to move on with the conversation. They don't want to be talking about your topic forever and ever. So they just interrupt you and request you to please move on, leaving you frustrated, feeling unheard, unaccepted, misunderstood. Minimizing, that's also a strategy they absolutely love to employ, because they don't handle problems very well. And whenever we approach them with our problems, and if we want them to help us resolve them and they don't have the immediate answer we are seeking, they feel humiliated without us having had the intention of humiliating them. It's how they feel. They feel incompetent. So they start minimizing either our problems or the level of intensity that we are experiencing. It is true that sometimes we exaggerate, that sometimes problems are not as bad as they seem to us, but it's not about the problem as such. It's about what kind of a reaction that problem evokes in us. It's about the intensity of that negative emotion that we are experiencing. And when they are minimizing our problems or minimizing the importance of our wishes and desires, then they are in fact saying that we are exaggerating, that they are clearly demonstrating that they do not understand what we are experiencing or going through. They don't understand how difficult or painful something for us is. They often play down the problem. They say that it's not that bad, that we are just playing the victim, that we are being soft again, and, you know, too sensitive, you know, that's the sentence they love to employ. Monologues is another typical trait of narcissistic communication. Like I said previously, our function in communication with narcissists, especially if they initiate a conversation, is to be there, to listen, to offer positive mirroring, to agree with them, to praise them, how smart they are, to give them right all the time. And they tend to engage in lengthy monologues quite often, especially if we are talking about a subject they are very passionate about. And when they are in their monologue mode, they don't see anyone else, they don't hear anyone else, they don't pay attention nor notice anyone else. They often don't listen. We've enumerated several possibilities as to why that happens. They might be distracted, they might be tired, they might not care at all, they might just not be interested in what we're saying. Silence. The silence treatment, that is one of the hardest experiences that one can have in an intimate relationship. And narcissists often use these tactics because they know how hurtful it is. They can engage in silent treatment for weeks on end, even for months if they decide to do so. And if we are living with somebody who is constantly ignoring us, ignoring our presence, that's very painful. Placating, that is also something they do quite often, in the sense of there, dear, it will be okay. Minimizing again what we are experiencing. Yes, indeed, we sometimes exaggerate. We see things more bleak than they really are. But when somebody says, there, you know, it's not that bad, it doesn't really help because it feels bad for us at that specific moment. And that kind of placating can sound very insincere and even intolerant. Gaslighting is a trademark of toxic narcissists, but even more of malignant narcissists or people with antisocial personality disorder. Gaslighting, as you probably know, is a form of psychological manipulation in which the abuser, that is our narcissist, attempts to sow self-doubt and confusion in the victim's minds, in our minds. So gaslighters are typically seeking to gain power and control over the people they are gaslighting because they are distorting reality and they are forcing the victims to question their own judgment and intuition. If you've ever experienced a toxic narcissistic relationship, then you are very much familiar with this strategy. When narcissists are so convincing and manipulative in conversations with us that we start to doubt our own sanity, our sense of judgment. We no longer know nor who we are, nor where we're going, nor what is happening. And these are all negative communication strategies, but they are employed by narcissists often. Frequently because they don't have a solution at hand, frequently because they don't know what to say, or they feel lost and out of control. And then they project all of their negative thoughts and experiences onto us by employing these strategies. Now, what do we do? How do we communicate with our partners? We too are advising, but not in a condescending way. We are usually advising because we wish to help our narcissists, but an unsolicited advice is never well received by our narcissists. So please refrain from advising unless specifically requested. Assuming. Women tend to do that a lot. We just assume what our partners are thinking or feeling. Again, narcissistic mask plays a very important role. If you are assuming based on the narcissistic mask, you will miss the target completely. If you wish to assume based on what is happening behind the mask. But in order to be able to do that, you have to know your narcissist really well. Women also expect mind reading. Sometimes we pretend we can read the minds of our partners. Sometimes we get it right. Often we don't get it right. But what is worse, we expect our partners to read our minds. Narcissists, I'm not going to say that they don't ever do any mind reading or that they cannot guess what we are feeling. They can mind read, but they choose not to do so, because if they admit they know what we want and how we feel, then they will have to act accordingly, which sometimes they don't want to do. If you want your partner to do something, if you have a wish, a desire, a demand, express it like we said, clearly, in a concise, coherent, complete manner. Feeling that talking is futile is a feeling we experience more often than we would probably wish to. If you've had like 900 or 999 conversations with your narcissist on the same topic and nothing ever changes, then you think, well, having conversation number 1000 probably won't help either. Yes, that's partly true. But with narcissists, you have to discuss a specific topic ad nauseam, forever and ever, for hours on end. Incremental, small changes do happen. And if nothing else, through each conversation, you gain more experience, and more importantly, you gain a slightly better insight into your narcissist's thinking and feeling about a specific topic. I know it's frustrating, it's tiring, it feels like it's futile, but not a single conversation with a narcissist is a futile one. If you know how to read the signs, if you know how to interpret them, if you know how to learn from your past communications with him. Generalizing, that is also something that we tend to do when we start generalizing a specific issue. Let's say we have a problem with our narcissist because he didn't do laundry today. And we will not just be talking about him not doing laundry that day. We will then generalize that he's a lazy slob, that he never does anything, that we have to do all the chores in our house, that he never helps, that it's been like that forever, that things will never change, and he's sloppy not only in doing his household chores, but also in all other areas. So that's generalizing. Replaying the past, quite often in a way that fits our interest and our points of view, that validates our points of view. That does not help. If we are facing a problem right here, right now, let's talk about the problem right here, right now. Let's not replay the past. Let's not go down the memory lane, remembering all of the similar incidents that happened. I know they happened. I know they are frustrating, but bringing them up in the here and now will not help. We too sometimes compete with our narcissist and we try to prove our point. Proving our point to the narcissist is completely futile. Like we said, narcissists will never admit they are wrong. Even if you have it written on paper, if you have a solid proof that they did something, they will still say they didn't do it if it's embarrassing for them. So stop proving your point of view. Stop proving them that you're right. You know that you are right. He knows that you are right. Don't try to force this recognition of you being right from him. You will never get it because he will manipulate you into talking about something completely different where he will find fault with you. So you will end up feeling worse at the end of the conversation than you did compared to the beginning of the conversation. Now, in communication with narcissists, pay attention to the following defense mechanisms that they use. These are by Giancarlo Di Maggio, and we've mentioned some of them already. Denigration, that's placating, basically just raised to a higher level. Whenever narcissists feel attacked, even though it's not our intention to attack them, they will counterattack. And when they counterattack, they do not attack what we said or what we did. They attack us personally. They start attacking our personal qualities or our faults as they see them. You know, if we forgot to send an email, they will not be angry with us and call us stupid or lazy because we did not send that email. They will be attacking us personally in the sense of calling us stupid, incompetent, lazy, not good for anything. So it will be a personal attack on us. It will not be a criticism of something we did or didn't do. Procrastination, that's, I don't want to talk about this, I will not talk about this, and I will procrastinate for as long as it takes for you to forget that you wanted to talk to me about something. If there are topics they refuse to discuss, then they will do whatever they can to not talk about that. Aggression and accusation, attack is always the best defense, or as they say, offense is the best defense, and they employ that tactic often. When they do that, they confuse you completely because they start belittling you, denigrating you. Verbal aggression is present, physical not really, at least not with the usual types of narcissists. With malignant narcissists, sometimes with toxic, it can happen. But with other types, with the gregarious show-off one and with the covered one, and even with toxic ones, it does not happen. It's usually verbal aggression and accusations. They like to accuse people because when they do that, they feel better. They feel more worthy than the person they're attacking. Perfectionism, that is also a diversion strategy, I would say, because they will not discuss a specific subject unless they know everything about it. They need to be in control of the conversation, so they will strive for perfection in communication as well. They tend to avoid shame because they don't like to be shamed. They feel that if they are shamed, that they are not good enough, and then they will be rejected. So in order to avoid shame, they will do whatever it takes. They will change the subject, they will not listen, they will respond with, I don't know, they will procrastinate, or they will start attacking us. And reverse roles, that's projection. all of the negative experiences they have, all of the negative thoughts and feelings they have about themselves, they will be projecting them onto us. Now, some recommendations, what to do, what not to do when talking to narcissists. Don't confront them. Confrontation will not lead you anywhere. Even if you know you're right and he's wrong, don't shove that into his face. Any confrontation is counterproductive and you will end up feeling worse. Don't be overly empathic. There's a typo. You can reflect their comments. You can share your thoughts, because that's how you will demonstrate to them that you're listening, that you understand them. But don't be too empathic, because if you're too empathic, then you become emotionally too vulnerable and open. And whenever that happens, you become an easy target for all of the projections and manipulation. Abandon all fantasies that you can change them, but not only narcissists, but anyone. You cannot change anyone. I know that women like to think that partners will change because of them, or that they will change their partners in one way or another. You cannot change another person. People can only change if they wish to change. Perhaps you have the best chance of changing somebody's behavior by changing your own behavior, by starting to respond to your narcissist's behavior in a different way, by not engaging in their power struggle, by not playing their games, by not falling into the trap they are setting. And don't seek allies in communication with your narcissist, because narcissists wear different masks for different people. They present differently to different people. If your narcissist is being nasty to you at home, and you start complaining to one of his work colleagues to whom he's presenting completely differently, then this work colleague will not understand what you're saying, where you're coming from, because the person you will be describing will not match the person he has been interacting with, because the narcissist that is being nasty to you at home is probably super sweet at work and everybody loves him and adores him. So don't seek allies in communication unless you know that your narcissist has been talking in the same kind of way to that person. You have to strengthen your boundary setting. That is important for every relationship, not only for relationships with narcissists. Emotional boundaries in particular. Do not allow the narcissist to cross your boundaries. If they start attacking you verbally or in any other way, don't react. Just walk away. Do not engage in conflictual conversations. Do not get sucked into their drama, because they often create drama, but you have to play it out for them. They don't like to be seen as people who are out of control. Develop a strong and resilient internal self, or as we call it, a healthy narcissism. Don't let your sense of self-worth depend on your narcissist's beliefs about you. You need to develop a strong, solid sense of self. You need to know that you are good enough, that you are worthy as a person, that you are okay. Don't seek external validation for yourself. Decrease your susceptibility to emotional manipulation. The best way to do that is to abandon all of your wishes of competing with your narcissist or proving your narcissist that he is wrong. If you do that, you open yourself up for manipulation. Don't respond to verbal attacks and provocations, because the conversation will only escalate and you will not resolve anything. And like I said, be attentive to your non-verbal communication. So hand gestures, head gestures, body language in general, your posture. Are you standing tall? Are you slouching? Be mindful of your vocal communication as well. If your voice is shaking or if you are expressing a demand in a very quiet, mousy way, they will not take you seriously. And now the purpose of communication. How often do you initiate conversations for the wrong reason? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself before you start a conversation about an important topic with your narcissist. First of all, this is also taken from Paula Hall, is my partner the right address for communication? If you have girly issues to discuss them with your girlfriend. Ask yourself, could I talk to someone else about this? Especially if it's a topic for which you know that your narcissist likes to avoid or does not want to talk about it or makes him uncomfortable. Then check what is currently going on for you or what is currently going on around you that could impact your reasons for having a specific conversation right now. For example, your best friend tells you that she's expecting her first child. And all of a sudden you wish to have a baby as well, and you want to start pressuring your narcissist into having a baby. Do not start a conversation about having or not having a baby if it is not something that you truly wish to discuss, or if you don't really have a wish to have a baby. Or for example, if your best friend is getting a divorce, don't initiate a conversation with your narcissist on the subject of, is our relationship good enough? Why isn't our relationship better? If your relationship was not an issue up until this moment, until the moment your best friend has decided to get a divorce, then why would you all of a sudden wish to discuss the problems in your relationship that don't exist? You will only confuse your narcissist. Ask yourself if you are willing to listen, reflect, and change your opinion. We often start a conversation with a specific goal in mind, and we are frequently not very open to counter arguments. We just want to have it our own way. Ask yourself if you are emotionally upset because of something or someone else. Now, this is called transference. If your boss upset you at work because of XYZ, don't then transfer all of your anger onto your partner, because your partner has nothing to do with the way you are feeling right now. It's your boss that you should be talking to. Are you bringing up baggage from the past? That too is something that we love to do, especially when we want to prove our point. Now, do you really wish to talk about this specific topic that you brought up, or was this just a detour to a discussion on a completely different topic? Be clear, be concise, be concrete. Don't do any detours. Do you really wish to talk about this topic? Okay, we've covered that. Do you have a specific outcome in mind? If you want the end of your conversation to lead to result A and nothing but A, then you are in trouble, because in a conversation, if you are resolving a problem, you have to be open to other solutions. Perhaps solution C as presented by your narcissist will not be acceptable to you, but maybe you can find common ground in solution B. If you decide to stick to solution A and A only, then good luck in communicating that. Are you capable of sharing your thoughts and wishes in a non-accusatory way? Can you actually speak from yourself based on what you're feeling and experiencing without finger pointing? Can you express a criticism in a non-aggressive and accusatory way? Because, like we said, narcissists are very sensitive to any kind of criticism. And of course, is the reason for the talk that you are spoiling for a fight. That too is sometimes the reason why we initiate a conversation, especially if we have great sex after a fight. Ask yourself if it's really worth it to have a fight in order to have sex. If you wish to have sex with your partner, just say so. You don't have to spoil for a fight first. The purpose of communication should be to understand, not to finger point, to understand your partner's point of view, to understand his arguments and his wishes as well, not only yours. Then talk about how the problem can be solved or how the situation can be improved. If you're just talking and talking and talking without coming up with a solution, then that's tiring. Sometimes it helps because you vent and you feel better, but it does not bring about a solution, which means that you will sooner or later have to have the same conversation again. Always talk about your feelings and thoughts. Do not try to read your partner's mind. Do not expect your partner to read your mind. Do not anticipate, because you might be right, you might be wrong. Always state facts. Do not distort or misrepresent past events. That's something we like to do as well. We like to interpret things in a way that they fit with our narrative. Don't do that, because your partner is not stupid. He was probably involved in many of those past events and probably has a different recollection of what happened, who said what, and so on. Present your viewpoint, but be open to a different viewpoint as well. It's always frustrating to have a conversation with somebody for whom you see immediately that that person is not going to budge an inch, that he's just too stubborn to even consider changing his mind. So be open. Explain how you're feeling and what you wish for. And in expressing your wishes, be clear and concise and concrete. And also indicate what you intend to do after the talk. If you're just talking and if you are setting some kind of ultimatums during the conversation and then nothing happens, then your narcissist will not be taking you seriously. If after the talk you wish something changes, and if things don't change, then indicate what you are going to do to change the situation. And the purpose of empathy: reflecting. Repeat a word or a sentence to show to your partner that you have listened to him and that you understand him. You know, this feeling of being heard and understood is very important in communication, and a lot can change if the person has this sense that his wishes and desires are taken into account as well. Interpretation. That is the best solution if you want to avoid misunderstandings. Tell your partner how you interpreted the message, how you understood it. Check if you perhaps misunderstood it. Offer feedback. Feedback is always welcome, especially if it's delivered in a kind manner. Share what sort of an impact your partner had on you. Mirroring, use body language for indicating the impact. Ask questions. By asking questions, you can clarify the situation, and most of all, you can indicate that you are interested in understanding. So ask questions and sub-questions and follow-up questions, and as many questions as you need to fully understand what's going on. And show gratitude, especially when your partner has shared some deep, intimate thoughts. Narcissists don't open up emotionally very often. They don't like to share their intimate thoughts. They don't let you into their intimate world. When they do, appreciate that, show gratitude, and most of all, do not abuse that information and do not throw all of that into their faces the next time you're having an argument. Because if when a narcissist opens up to you and shares some intimate thoughts, shares perhaps some vulnerabilities, then he expects that to stay private. Do not spread that information around. Do not use and abuse that information, because if you do, you will lose him forever. Your narcissist will shut you out completely, and that's not something that you would wish for. And this brings us to the end of part 2, and also to the end of our course. I hope that you have learned something new about narcissists, about narcissism, and about communication. If you wish to learn more, or if you have any additional questions, if you have any problems that you would like some help in resolving, then you can always send me an email. You can schedule an individual or a couples therapy session. Do reflect on everything that you have heard today. Try to objectively assess your communication style and strategies. If at all possible, modify the things that you are doing wrong or not successfully enough. I certainly hope that you have gained a better understanding or a deeper insight also into how narcissists are thinking, how they are feeling, why they are acting the way that they are acting. I'm not saying that you should now just forgive them for everything and that you should just agree with them every time. It's just show some empathy, show some consideration, try to see where they are coming from, because it will help you in communicating your thoughts much better. I wish you and your narcissist a lot of successful communication in the future. And if you ever need any help, you can always contact me also with questions or comments about this course. Thank you for attending, and see you in another course maybe. Bye-bye.